Hello and welcome to part one in a series of videos that I'm going to be making on this book, The Etheric Double. This video will be mostly an introduction. I'll lightly go over why I felt called to do this in the first place, and then I'm going to read straight from the book a little bit and sort of talk as I go. Each video will focus on chapters individually. There are a couple chapters going over the chakras, which I will probably compile a couple of them together at a time. I'm not really sure. It really just depends on how long each video is, and if I feel like the information gets too dense or it's just too much for one video, then we might space them out more. So I'm going to just kind of follow my intuition on that. And so I found this book a few years back. As a child, I was always able to see these glimmers or particles or whatever. I didn't really know what they were. I was always able to see them in the sky against like the blue backdrop, and on cloudy days I could see them pretty well because my eyes weren't as sensitive to the light. And I've always wondered, like, what are these things? So I started trying to figure out if there was a person or somebody who had any information on this. Of course, science will say that they are floaters, which some of them might be floaters. Like, I have had floaters in my eyes before, so I'm pretty familiar with what floaters are. These are different. They move faster in the sunlight and slower in the evening. If I'm in my room and it's pretty dark, I can still see them, but they don't move as quick. And so I was interested, like, has anyone looked into this? I was able to find some excerpts of Madame Blavatsky talking about it a little bit, calling them vitality globules. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I kept exploring more and more. And this is the book, The Etheric Double, that kept coming up. So this is written by A.E. Powell. It is sort of a compilation of many authors. And he just sort of corroborates their information into one place. There's about 40 or so books that are referenced here, mostly centered around C.W. Ledbetter and Annie Besant, but also some references from H.P. Blavatsky as well. So yeah, he covers a lot about vitality, talks about vitality globules, how we interact with it, why it's important, all of these things. And it covers so many other cool topics. The more I read this book, the more I got excited because it had basically all of the things that I just love exploring on my podcast and just in my studies in general. So a lot of these writers that we'll be talking about are famous theosophical writers. You can watch videos. There's so many videos on what is theosophy, who are the main players, how did it start. So if you want to do more of a dive into what is theosophy, I would suggest watching some videos on that. We're going to try to focus mostly on this particular book, but I do have a couple other books to the side to reference. There are some topics that get brought up that do require a little bit of explanation that I feel like might be glazed over, and I think the hardest part about studying things like theosophy is that there is a certain vocabulary that is unfamiliar to many of us, and as we read it, we're like, what the heck's, what is a faux hot? Who's the solar deity? Okay, so as you go, it's important to pause and I think reflect on certain definitions, which we will do as we explore this. So I'll try to keep in mind that not everyone's going to have years of study as far as some of the definitions go. All right, so I'm just going to read the publisher's preface. It says, the author's aim in compiling the books in this series was to save students much time and labor by providing condensed synthesis of the considerable literature on the respective subjects of each volume, coming mostly from the pens of Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter. The accompanying list shows the large number of books from which he drew. So far as possible, the method adopted was to explain the form side first, before the life side, to describe the objective mechanism of phenomena, and then the activities of consciousness that are expressed through the mechanism. There is no attempt to prove or even justify any of the statements. Marginal references give opportunity to refer to the sources. If you'd like to pick up a copy of this book to sort of follow along with this series, I do think it was on Amazon. It's pretty cheap, and it is in the free domain, so you can find copies of it online to print off. I just prefer to get the book because I like to have it all organized in one spot. It goes on to say the works of H.P. Blavatsky were not used because the author said that the necessary research in the secret doctrine and other writings would have been too vast a task for him to undertake. He does quote her a few times, and we will definitely look into some of her work as we explore this a little bit more. The debt to H.P. Blavatsky is greater than could ever be indicated by quotations from her monumental volumes. Had she not shown the way in the first instance, later investigators might never have found the trail at all. So there is such a debt to H.P. Blavatsky, who is one of the founders of the Theosophical Society. You can find a lot of information about her online. So now we're going to skip over to the foreword, and I have just sort of underlined things that I felt like were most important. I'm obviously not going to read this entire book from start to finish for you all, but I'm going to try to focus on what I feel is the most important and trust that you all will do some of the research on your own. All right. So this was published in 1925, which is very interesting. It talks a lot about C.W. Ledbetter's work, and I'm pretty sure it was 1927 when he came out with an entire book on chakras, which is also in the public domain you can look at. So I kind of was like going back and forth because there are some really cool colored pictures in that book, which I felt like kind of helped me see things that he was describing in this book better. So it, you know, this was like a precursor to that one. So let's see. As A.E. Powell said himself in his introduction, this is a compilation from 40 main works published between 1897 and 1921. And in view of their wide range and the painstaking thoroughness with which they were extracted, the information may fairly be taken to summarize the general views upon the subject up to 1925. We do have a lot of information on auras. We can, you know, photograph them now and things like that. But I do feel called to go back and sort of see like where some of this originated. And I do feel like sometimes when we go back, we can maybe understand how we got to where we were, and maybe was there anything that we missed on the path. So even though some of this is super dated material, I still find it super fascinating, and I don't think that just because we've expanded in a lot of ways that it makes this necessarily invaluable information. Much of the contents of the Etheric Double is derived from the exercise of clairsentience, or extrasensory perception as it is now called. And although the contents may be accurate, there is as yet no accepted method of confirming this. So when studying things like the aura and vitality and things like that, we do have clairvoyance and people that are sort of able to see things that are considered extrasensory. And I'm not saying trust what they're saying. I'm saying that allow yourself to receive the information with an open mind, and then maybe do your own research and meditations and things like that. Ultimately, to me, Theosophy is sort of about seeking truth, so I don't necessarily think you have to own the title of being a Theosophist in order to do that. And I think we all have, you know, our own intuition, our own inner guidance and things like that. And so don't take everything as fact or anything like that, just as a person's perception on it, and then you can run it through your own spiritual guidance and things like that. One of the reasons I continue to explore Theosophy is because I am an Akashic record reader, and I found that a lot of the things that I was seeing or the information that I was getting aligned with what a lot of these writers were already saying, and so it felt true for me, so I continue to explore it. I do think it's important to feel into yourself and like, does this feel right? You know, do I need to pause and maybe go back? Am I ready for this kind of information, kind of things? So allow yourself to be the guide on your path, right? So we're all just seekers of truth at the end of the day. All right, I feel like that was the most important thing in the foreword. This is in the introduction. This book has been compiled with the object of presenting to the student of occultism a coherent synthesis of all or nearly all the information regarding the etheric double and other closely allied phenomena, which has been given to the world through the medium of modern theosophical and psychical research literature. The information is scattered over a very large number of books and articles, some 40 of which the compiler consulted. A list of these are given on the page 9. The writer wishes it understood that his work is a compilation, nothing more. All he has done is to collect and arrange the material which others have provided. This is so awesome because there are so many books, and all of the people that wrote these books have spent years studying the material. So to have somebody, you know, corroborate all that material for us is so nice, okay? Because it is scattered and not everybody has 100 years to study all these things. So what a gift, right? That he took this time to organize this for us. All right. The diagrams and charts contained in the text are original. They are intended to be purely diagramical and in no sense pictures of the actual phenomena they attempt to illustrate. So some of it is, you know, you'll look at the picture and you're like, what the heck is this? But it's sort of just, you know, you might have like a vision or something. You try to tell your friend and you're explaining it, and it might not actually be exactly what you saw, but you have to use a sort of language or familiarity in order to share that idea with somebody else who wasn't there or doesn't see it the same way. So the diagrams are helpful, but they're not trying to say this is exactly what's happening in that moment. So now I'm just going to kind of go over the table of contents and sort of the topics that are covered in this book that we'll be going over. So number 1, general description. 2, prana or vitality. 3, force centers. 4, the spleen center. 5, base of the spine center. 6, the navel center. 7, the heart center. 8, the throat center. 9, the center between the eyebrows. 10, the center at the top of the head. 11, discharges. 12, tabulation of results. 13, kundalini. 14, the atomic web. 15, birth. 16, death. 17, healing. 18, mesmerism. 19, shells and shields. 20, mediumship. 21, the work of Dr. Walter J. Kilner. 22, Etheric Faculties. 23, Magnetization of Objects. Super cool chapter. And 24, Ectoplasm, then the conclusion. So we will be going over each of these chapters pretty much individually. Like I said, I might group a couple of them together. I'm so excited to share this with other people. A lot of the research that I've done over the years has been done in isolation, and I don't really get to communicate with a lot of people about it because it is kind of far out, and you know, not everyone's ready for it. But I am excited to share this with those who are also seekers and that have a genuine interest and curiosity in this topic. And I'm not claiming to be an expert in any of this. I'm just kind of going over it. So as I go, if you all have, you know, more to elaborate on a topic or references or other things that might help us to expand in this study, please feel free to add comments and share your wisdom with us. So, all right, that concludes the introduction. I'm really excited to get started with chapter 1.